Wheaton College was originally called the Illinois Institute. It was founded by Illinois Wesleyan Methodists whose members had broken away from the Methodist General Conference over slavery. The institute was later named Wheaton College when Jonathan Blanchard became its president and renamed the college for its founder. Reports say that the Underground Railroad operations were not hidden at the school and that escaping slaves were housed in homes throughout the college community. Slaves were hidden at Blanchard Hall on the college campus. A home that stands near the corner of College Avenue at President Street was said to have been used to house fleeing slaves. Another home stood on Blanchard Avenue, just northeast of the College Avenue train station. Jonathan Blanchard became the president of Knox College at the suggestion of H.H. Kellogg, who also was an abolitionist, and the two met at an anti-slavery conference. His management of the college was marred by long and bitter fights with the college founder, George Washington Gale, over whose denomination would control the college, Blanchard's Congregationalists or Gale's Presbyterians. Gale prevailed and Blanchard left Knox to become the founding president of Wheaton College. He had a strong anti-slavery reputation for speaking in the region and for giving a lecture on American slavery at the college. Later, he debated Stephen Douglas over the issue of Kansas-Nebraska bill that was to be called the Missouri Compromise, stoking national tensions over slavery and contributing to a series of armed conflicts known as Bleeding Kansas. Blanchard continued his anti-slavery crusade when he became president of Illinois Institute in 1859 and when it renamed to Wheaton College for its founder, Jesse Wheaton. Sources say Blanchard concealed slaves at the college as well as at his residence. Kellogg Street is named for Hiram H. Kellogg. He was the president of Knox College, succeeded by Jonathan Blanchard, whom he chose as his successor because of their common abolitionist ties. Hiram Kellogg came to Knox from the domestic seminary at Clinton, New York, which he had founded. While president at Knox, Kellogg traveled to London in an attempt to raise funds at a meeting of the International Anti-Slavery Society. The largely fruitless quest took him away from campus for close to a year and led to his departure from Knox and his return to New York. We're at the Williston stop. The Underground Railroad was active in towns in DuPage County other than Wheaton. At this stop, we're going to talk about one of those sites, the Peck House in Lombard. Sheldon and Harriet Peck settled in Lombard at the time called Babcock's Grove in 1837. Sheldon was an American folk artist and abolitionist and a conductor on the Underground Railroad. He hid slaves on his property and moved them on wagon to Chicago, which was a route to Canada. He also volunteered for the abolitionist newspaper, The Western Citizen. Perhaps you'll ride your bike to Peck House another time to learn more. You can ride the Prairie Path to Lombard from here. Sumner Street is named for Charles Sumner, a senator from Massachusetts and a leader of the anti-slavery forces in Massachusetts, also a leader of the radical Republicans in the U.S. Senate during the American Civil War. He devoted his enormous energies to the destruction of what Republicans called the slave power, the influence over the federal government of Southern slave owners who sought the continuation and expansion of slavery. In 1856, a South Carolina Congressman, Democrat Preston Brooks, nearly killed Sumner on the Senate floor 2 days after Sumner delivered an intensely anti-slavery speech. During the Civil War, Sumner was a leader of the radical Republican faction that criticized Abraham Lincoln for being too moderate on the South. Whittaker School is named for poet and abolitionist John Greenleaf Whittier. He was an American Quaker poet an advocate of abolition of slavery in the United States. In 1833, Whittier published the anti-slavery pamphlet Justice and Expediency, and from there dedicated the next 20 years of his life to the abolitionist cause. The controversial pamphlet destroyed all of his political hopes, as his demand for immediate emancipation alienated both Northern businessmen and Southern slaveholders. But it also sealed his commitment to a cause that he deemed morally correct and socially necessary. He was a founding member of the American Anti-Slavery Society and signed the Anti-Slavery Declaration of 1833, which he often considered the most significant action of his life. Emerson School is named after Ralph Waldo Emerson. Emerson's reputation was one of a well-respected family man of stringent moral values and also as a phenomenal and dedicated writer. His role as an abolitionist came late in life, probably because as a Unitarian minister he was reluctant to attach himself to such a volatile issue, but also because he was wary of labels. However, Emerson had strong feelings regarding the rights of personal freedom in every man, and ultimately, close abolitionist friends encouraged him to voice his opinion. After long resisting attempts by reformers to gain his support for various social issues, Emerson became a fervent advocate of the 1850s for abolitionism, though his efforts were too late and too local to make him a national leader. Longfellow School is named after the poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who wrote poems on slavery. This volume of poems influenced Whittier to suggest that Longfellow run for office. In his note to decline running, he said, "Though a strong anti-slavery man, I am not a member of any society and fight under no single banner. I am much gratified that the poems on slavery have exercised some salutary influence, and I thank you for your good opinion of them. At all times I shall rejoice in the progress of true liberty and in the freedom from slavery of all kinds. But I cannot for a moment think of entering the political arena." So Cross Street is named for Reverend John Cross. He was the first instructor at the Illinois Institute and a signer of Wheaton's Papers of Incorporation. He'd come to Illinois as an agent for the Anti-Slavery Society of America. Cross surveyed Underground Railroad stations between Quincy, Illinois and Chicago, and he served a prison term for assisting fugitive slaves. Cross and a neighbor one time staged a deception to get some slaves to safety. Cross fled some slave catchers as if he had a group of slaves in his wagon, while the neighbor actually moved the slaves to safety in his own wagon.